So once again, hi everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, as per your respective time. Okay. And okay, here was one row, here was one row, and here was another row, the third row. I was sitting somewhere over here in the center, and 9 a.m. happened, and people started filling in like this way. And what happened? I noticed it that on my left hand side, this side, people were speaking in English in US accent. People on my right were speaking in Japanese. Right? Interesting. They were continuously talking over the phone calls. Like, they were entirely on phone calls, having conversation with the clients and everything. So by the look and feel of it, what do you think was going on over there? By the look and feel, as I would say, which I also encountered the same thing. It worked. It looked like a BP or a call center, you can say. But after 20, 25, 30 minutes, on my right hand side, a person started shouting that yes, 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 I did a transaction of XYZ amount. And okay, I thought maybe a project has been closed, like, the payment has been done completely. Then again, after 15, 20 minutes, someone from here said the same thing. And the entire day, they were saying, each one of them was saying the same exact thing, that I did a transaction of this much, I did a transaction of this much, I did a transaction of this much, XYZ amount. And now, exactly, Mohammed Abqaz, correct. So I made a friend on my left hand side, this person, and I asked him that, dude, like, really, what's going on? Everyone is saying that okay, we did a transaction of this much, and everything like that. So that made me skeptical, and I was wondering what's going on. So that friend told me that uh, they're scamming people, in US and Japan at the same time. So there's a series on in Netflix, if you see, with the name Jamtara. A couple of you might have heard about it. But for others, I would say kindly must watch. It's a must watch thing. So they were scamming people around the world. How they were scamming, I will tell you. Remember the reason I told you, like, I was the entire story. I was designing the websites for them, right? I was making the website look authentic. And I did that for 1 or 2 months. So what they were doing, they were starting a campaign using that. Okay. Now, on my website, the codes which I have written, they were tweaking the codes. Okay, they were tweaking the codes. And what happened after that? As soon as you open a website, have you ever seen you get some pop-ups saying, okay, any ad pop-ups, you can say, or terms and condition kind of a pop-ups? Oftenly we've seen that, right? Absolutely. So what was happening? So let's suppose if you take, for example, if Abhi is there, Abhi opened my website, right? As soon as Abhi opened my website, that entire page of my website will be covered with a pop-up, which was saying that, okay, your system is under risk. Okay, your system is under risk. You need to troubleshoot it, or you need to, call on this number to secure your system. And a number was provided at the bottom. And somehow these calls were being redirected to these people. And once these calls were being redirected to these people, the real game starts after that. So, they are so good in manipulating people. They are so good with their, choice of words. So they started doing it. Now they have, and I have literally seen they are having that document in which it is written like what to say at what time. Like if this is a query, if this is a scenario, what to say at that time. So they started doing that, and they was really they were good in their work, and they started scamming people, and they have earned a huge amount of money. And that was the day I decided that I would be not, I won't do this anymore, and I totally cut that out, and I went into cybersecurity section, to make people aware about this. So I have really seen this thing which happens in the background. So in that, like, what do they do? They will take the control. So let's suppose if Abhi called me, let's suppose Sanyam is right now a scammer, for example, not in reality. Okay, Abhi called me, and now I will ask Abhi to give me the remote control of your system. So you might have heard about the softwares like TeamViewer, AnyDesk, something like this, correct? So what does it do? It gives you a remote control access. So now I got the access of Abhi's system. Okay. Now I can literally do whatever I want to do. So I will say to Abhi that, okay, I need your remote control access so that I can do troubleshooting over there, which is fine. But I can also access his camera. So I opened his camera to see, whatever the activities Abhi is doing. And in the name of troubleshooting, I will barely do anything, like, bare minimum things, playing around with the antivirus, firewall settings, and so on. That's it. And after a couple of minutes, I will tell Abhi that, Abhi, I have revoked my access. Now you have the entire control and you can go for the further payment thing. So that was a total lie. It was like, totally a lie. I still have the control of Abhi's system right now. Abhi thinks that Saim is no more having the controls. And at the time of payment, when Abhi is doing the payment, so let's suppose the payment was of $200. Okay, let's suppose payment was $200. So before Abhi hit the pay button or submit button, I still have the controls of his system, right? So I will distract Abhi because I still have the access of the camera as well. I will distract Abhi and quickly I will make the payment more over here. Like from 200, I'll make it 2000 or 2K dollars and go for the payment. And as soon as I do that, the person is scammed, right? So this is how they were scamming people. And obviously, Abhi in this example is a non-technical guy who's not aware about these things. Even the weird people, they fell for the trap because the choice of words they use, it's highly manipulative. So this entire thing was happening over there. And the reason I'm telling you this is because this is also one kind of an attack in terms of cybersecurity. Do you know what kind of an attack do we call it? So this is something known as a phishing. Phishing done over the voice call. Okay, always remember that. This is something known as a phishing, everyone. So that was the day I left it, obviously, and I went into cybersecurity part. And similarly, many people do, the scamming in different ways, and they have a highly cash, they have huge amount of money for that. I'm not, you know, attracting you guys towards it, but I'm telling you this is also risky because I have seen a lot of cases where, they have been caught red-handedly and they have to spend their life, behind the prisons. So this is something where I come from. I have this background, I would say. Then I switched into the cybersecurity portion, and then I have like learned a lot. I have done like in terms of certification. If I deliver, there are a couple of mentioned over here, like from offensive side to defensive side as well as your management part. So this is areas which I have covered in cybersecurity and many more to cover and explore. Because cybersecurity, when we talk about cybersecurity, it's actually um, it's like an ocean. The more you dive in, the more you explore it out. So that's your cybersecurity. All right, and that will be a not so brief, but yeah, an introduction regarding me. Now jumping to the more further things, what do we have in agenda? For today, we have this agenda, introduction to security. What is security? We'll talk about security management also. What does your SOC signify? And what is the need of a SOC? And job roles in SOC. Like we have different platforms, or I would say job roles, a designation. So we'll talk about them as well. That will be for day one. Okay. What is security? So security has many definitions. I would like to interact with you guys. You guys can give your definitions as well and your input. All the inputs are welcome. So security over here is mentioned. Security refers to the state of being free from danger, harm, or risk. It involves measures taken to ensure safety and protection against potential threats or undesirable outcomes. Types of there are they like different types: information security, cyber security, physical security, national security, personal security. Perfect. So as mentioned, security refers to the state of being free from the danger, harm, or risk. That's what we commonly define security as, like through which we are eliminating the entire threat from us. Okay, the entire threat. So we make sure, like for example, security guard. Just a very simple example. Security guard is there. So we try to hire security guard so that we can be secure, we can be safe, through threats like from any thief or any attacks in our houses, in our home. We have normal locks, we have CCTV cameras. All of these part of your security. correct? In security, we have these things: information security, cyber security, physical security, national, personal. If I have to add on, there are more: financial, job security as well. So information security, cyber security, I'll get back to that. Physical security means like the measures which we take in order to safeguard our physical assets, our facilities, our people, right? So it will be involving, things, various things, I would say, like uh, access controls, right? Having surveillance, uh, in order to protect ourselves from physical threats. National security, if we talk about, it is involving the protection of your nation's sovereignty, territory, right, and citizens from external threats. So it will be including measures like defense, intelligence, diplomatic efforts to ensure the safety and well-being of your country. Personal security, it is concerned with the safety and well-being of individuals. Okay, so we take the measures in order to protect against any physical harm, any theft, or any other personal risk. Personal to as in individual based. Correct. So these three things are there. Now, when we talk about information security and cyber security, so when we talk about information security, yes, we do talk about in terms of securing our data. But having said that, along with the data, we also protect our assets. So as you guys have mentioned, cyber security is a subset of information security. That's absolutely the correct definition. So for example, if your mobile phone is there, right? In case if in your mobile phone, if you have to protect your data, MFA, multi-factor authentication, absolutely right. The authentication factors which you implement, face lock, fingerprint, correct? Agreed. The authentication which we use. Now, using authentication, that's your digital security, isn't it? Can we call it a digital security? Using MFA. Perfect. So when you talk about digital security, that is referred as a cyber security. So now you have protected your data. That is amazing. Now you have to protect your asset as well. Because what if someone stole your asset? Then I can crack your cyber security and I can access your data, isn't it? So we have to protect our asset as well. So now what you do, okay, there was the data, you have your files as in your pictures, videos, messages, whatsoever is there. You protected it by using your MFA, multi-factor authentication of fingerprint, face recognition, whatsoever you have implemented. After that, after that, what you are going to do, you will put that mobile phone in a drawer and you will lock it. So basically, in short, when you're protecting your data along with your asset, it's an information security. So somehow we are including physical security also. So information security is a very broader concept in which cyber security is a subset or subpart of it. Importance of security, we have protection of confidentiality, preservation of integrity, availability, defense against cyber threats, data protection, business continuity, and compliance as well. See, the very first pointer over here, when we talk about in terms of protection of confidentiality, preservation of integrity, and availability. So this is a CIA triad. When we talk about in terms of information security, there are three very popular elements of information security, which is CIA triad. C stands for confidentiality, I stands for integrity, A stands for availability. There are furthermore, okay, there are furthermore, and will talk about that. So can we say in a simple manner, protecting your data from any unauthorized access is a confidentiality, right? How can we attain confidentiality? Can I put encryption over here? Exactly. Encryption can also be part of it. You can put access controls as well, because only authorized person are allowed to enter into a room, for example. Okay, there's a room in which only authorized person are allowed. So if you have ID card, only then you can access that room. Otherwise, you won't be able to. That's confidentiality. So encryption is also used over there to protect your data. So we use keys, you can say keys are involved. So one key will be with the sender, another key will be with the receiver in order to access the data. Correct? That's a confidentiality. Integrity means Does integrity protects from any alteration or modification, or does it verifies if there is any modification or alteration? Verify. Okay, because integrity verifies if the data has been changed, it has been altered or not. For example, in cricket, you know, we call it, there is a term ball tampering. You might have heard about this word. So what happens in ball tampering? When a bowler, you know, uh, makes some changes in the ball, right? Scrub it or like whatsoever, changes the seam of it. Now, doing the ball tampering over here makes or loses the integrity of the game, right? Damaging the ball, exactly. So it loses the integrity of the game, entire game. That's what your integrity is all about. We use hashes in our data's concept. Whenever you're sending any data, we use hashes. Or another term you will hear over here is checksum also. Okay, hash or hashes, not that hash, the digital one. Okay, so integrity help us to verify the data is not tampered or altered in between. So if uh, Patrick is sending hello to Selva, so Selva will be receiving hello over there. Okay, if any modification is there, Selva will get to know something fishy has happened in between, something suspicious has been happened in between. So it helps us to verify that. Then we have availability. What is availability? Availability refers ensuring timely and reliable access to and use of information, right data to a right person at right time, uptime of system and services, anytime and any place. Right, makes sense. So we have to make sure our data and services are available to our genuine users whenever required. Correct. So you guys have already told us like backups, disaster recovery. These are pretty good example in terms of availability concept. Okay, one question in between. There's an attack which is on availability, right? DOS as in denial of service. DOS we call it, denial of service. What happens in DOS is, with a simple example, I would give an idea about this one. We consume the resources of the server to make it, you know, slow in response, and makes it unavailable for its genuine users. So, for example, if Amazon is there, when Amazon launches a sale, so let's suppose they are selling iPhone 15 in a very cheap price. What happens at that particular time when the sale starts? You might have noticed the website becomes a bit slow. The response time of that website is a bit slow. Ever notice that? Server exact request flood to the servers. So what happens now? Everyone is sending a request to the server. Server will be having its own resources, correct? So here are users, and this is your server. So many users from different places are requesting this server. So this server will be having its limitation as in terms of resources which are available over there. So lots of requests are there which will be flooding this server and consuming its resources, which makes this server a bit slow in response. Or sometimes it's even unavailable. That is what is your DOS basically. Attacker over here sends multiple fake requests to the server to consume its resources so that the server is not available to its genuine users. That is what is known as your DOS, denial of service attack, which targets your availability. Uh, Venkat, 404 is a client side error actually. That means you have opened the wrong page. You're writing the wrong page over here. Okay, Rocky, absolutely. There are different type of DOS attack. So TCP flood is one of them. Yes, Kisan. Absolutely. Yeah, different types are there. Some are application based, some are protocol based, right? Ping of death. Venkat, 500 is a server side error. Yeah, so these kind of queries, which are like external ones, we can solve it later in the last section of the session. Like I will give 10 to 15 minutes for your queries. Okay. But just to let you know, 500 is your server side error, 400 is your client side, okay, 300 is your redirection, 200 base are your successful, 100 are your informative. just to let you know. Okay, all good. So these are three um, core elements, I would say. And sometimes organization, do you know, guys, prioritize these three on a different basis. What I meant with that is sometimes for them confidentiality will be of more priority. Sometimes integrity can be of more priority. Sometimes availability can be also of more priority. Okay. For example, if ISP is there, your internet service provider. Okay. For your internet service provider, out of these three, which will be of more priority? It can be one, it can be two, it can be all three also. But for your ISP, which one will be of more priority? I just saw it. Okay. So since it's an online game, sits in online, so obviously availability will be there. You have to make sure. Apart from that, I would put integrity. I'm not excluding confidentiality, but I'm just giving a bit more importance to integrity because nowadays, you buy a lot of things in your games, right? And let's suppose if I take a simple example, in games, what happens? Let's suppose PUBG is quite a famous one. So if someone is shooting a bullet, you know, if integrity is not there, you'll not know that someone is using, changing the codes because if you're shooting a bullet from different angle and it is hitting you, so that is what loss of integrity, correct? If you're playing this for Candy Crush, you reach to 100 level, integrity is not there, someone will bring you back to the level 1 and you will not know about it. Make sense? So for online game, just a bit more cutting edge to integrity as compared to confidentiality. What about banking then? For me, it will be C and I. I'm not including availability. And I'm not saying that availability is not there. It is really very important. But I'm just giving a bit more cutting edge to your confidentiality and integrity, a bit more. And I have a reason for that. So, for example, if you take Ravindra is there, for example, Ravindra is there, and Ravindra needs $100 at the moment. Let's suppose he went to ATM. ATM is not working, no cash available. So, can we say that's an availability issue? Correct? If you talk about in terms of trying to perform any online transaction, while performing transaction, have you ever seen messages that which says your bank server is not available or is busy and you are not able to make the transaction? Again, can we say availability issue? Perfect. Ravinder, in India, it's quite common, by the way. Nextly, what I wanted to say is, see, if there's a requirement of $100, Ravindra or any other person might ask their friends, parents, or someone to lend some money. They can borrow $100, and they will tell that okay, as soon as my services are back, bank services are up and running, I'll pay you back. So that urgency can be handled. Agree? Now, if I say, let's suppose for half an hour, 1 hour, there was no service was unavailable. You will be able to manage it maybe, but compare it with confidentiality and integrity. If your banking services are not having C and I, confidentiality and integrity, don't you think that poses a huge amount of risk as compared to availability? Think about it. So that's what I'm trying to tell you in that comparison. Narayana, yeah, I agree. I said availability is an crucial factor for sure. But in comparison to CIA, just giving CNI a bit more cutting edge. So availability is not neglected over here. I'm just saying a bit more cutting edge we can give to confidential integrity. Because if confidentiality integrity is not there, anyone can hack into your system, they can hack into your account, they can transfer the entire money from there. Apart from these, guys, what do we else have is we have just including few more things. Non-repudiation. and we have authenticity, you can say. So you cannot deny something which you have done or something which you did. Okay. So for example, if you got caught in a camera while stealing something from the supermarket, later you cannot deny it. You cannot say, or you cannot give the statement that, okay, no, no, I was not there. It was not me. Because the entire thing has been, logged over there. It is captured. So similarly, audit and logs which are collected, they are what? They are part of your non-repetition. Or a good example is digital signatures, right? Digital signatures. It makes sure that the data is being sent from you only. Authenticity means genuineness. So certificate tells you that okay, this website is genuine if it has a certificate. So every website you check, be it Facebook, Google, anything, they'll be having a certificate attached to it. So information security concept, we can say confidentiality, integrity, and availability. In terms of cyber security, we can say defense against cyber threats, data protection, business continuity, part of it. So defense against cyber threats would be cyber security. It actually protects your computer systems, networks, and digital information from cyber threats like a malware. Malware attacks would be like ransomware and phishing attacks. Data protection, if you talk about it, it will be safeguarding your digital assets and prevents unauthorized access to sensitive information, which is helpful in terms of reducing the risk of data breaches. Business continuity, cybersecurity has these measures which help us to contribute in maintaining the continuity of our operations by preventing disruptions which are caused by cyber incidents, right? So in terms of business continuity, for example, like okay, we are having this session running over here right now at the current moment. If there is any electricity cut out in my area, so I still have backup plans via which I will continue this session. So I will make sure this session goes on, right? Part of your business continuity. Disaster recovery plan can be included. Okay, and compliance are there as well. So compliance, like we have these security measures which are often necessary to comply with legal and regulatory requirements, which ensures that organization are following the industry standards, ESLva controls. So organization they adhere to, I would say, industry standards, and they are protecting against legal consequences. Right. So ISO, PCI DSS is definitely part of it. If you want to include, you can include like physical security will be like asset protection. If you have to include more in terms of physical security, you can include more asset protection, employee safety. Personal security will be like personal safety, right? um, Privacy, emotional well-being can also be like sort of included over there. Now next is security management. Okay, security management. The security management, okay, it encompasses the comprehensive protection of an organization asset spanning computers, personal buildings, and other resources, mitigating the potential risk also. So basically, in other words, if you talk about it, it is a collection of, you can say, systematic, repetitive set of interconnected security activities which helps the organizations to maintain their security posture at an, I would say, etiquette level. Okay, so these are like something which are ongoing efforts which focus on both physical safety and digital security of the assets. So it's very crucial, okay, and very essential part of every organization, I would say. So its main purpose is to protect the organization's assets like information, be it hardware and software, from malicious activities and reduce the overall risk of the organization. So it helps us to make sure that we are providing confidentiality, integrity, and availability of the organization's assets and the services. Okay, so security management will be it will also like include like developing and implementing various documents like policies, standards, procedures, and the guidelines as well. So these help basically the organization in implementing different security practices. Like you can include risk assessment, you can include training, you can include security audit, all of these things. So basically, security management, we do have certain security activities. Okay, So in terms of like broadly, we are talking about, not in much details. So broadly, you can see security management. It comprises different security activities in which we have security infrastructure, we have security prevention, we have compliance and validation, and we have security operations. So in security infrastructure, it provides security to your parameter, to your network, endpoint, and application and data by implementing your preventive, detective, and corrective information security controls. I will repeat that for you. Here in security infrastructure, we provide security to parameter, network, endpoint, and application and your data by implementing your preventive, detective, and corrective information security controls. So I have mentioned these three security controls. I will list it down for you. Preventive, detective, and corrective. So see, basically, like, when you're talking about perimeter securities, for example, like the perimeter is like the boundary between an organization's internal network and your external environment. For example, your internet is your external environment. So perimeter security will be like looking out to looking out for the controls, okay, in order to protect, right? So we'll be having preventive, detective, and corrective. So when we talk about preventive, something which help us to thwart the attack on the very first place, something which will be helping us to thwart or protect, also I mean to you know avoid the threat on the very first place. So having a firewall is a good example for that, which is a preventive measure, correct? Because it will be filtering and monitoring your incoming and outgoing network traffic. So if there is any malicious traffic, it will be blocking it. Similarly, your IPS, intrusion prevention systems, right? Detective would be something to detect. Detective controls are there which help us to detect any malicious activity which is going on. Just like you have your fire alarms in the hotels, it does what? It detects for any fire, correct? So it raises an alarm and notify each and everyone. So we do have SIM solutions, which is part of your SOC only, right? Security guard, if you want to watching CCTV camera, okay, fine, yeah. That is a detective, which raise an alert, which raise an alarm that okay, we are under the attack. Then we have corrective. James, I'm just talking about in general. In general, we are talking about. Then we have corrective. Corrective means once anything has happened, any incident has happened, what are corrective measures or corrective steps you will be taking in order to remediate it? Antivirus, absolutely, Praveen. I agree with that. Okay. I hope that makes sense now to everyone. Yeah, backup, absolutely. Yeah. So, guys, in terms of security infra, just to add on, just quick pointer for you guys. In security infra, what we can include? We can include your parameter security, your network security, your application security, your host security, your even data security. Okay. Now is a security prevention. Security prevention. It's very straightforward. Security prevention, it gives you, or we talk about the services and security prevention like your vulnerability management and penetration testing, which ensures or confirms the security in the networks against any vulnerabilities or the threats. So here we are not just scanning or the things or the network. We scan, we test, and we identify the threats which are across our internal and external networks. Uh, Security prevention in this vulnerability management penetration testing is there. So these services not only scan, test, and identify the threats across your internal and external network, but also remediate or reduce their exposure as well. So in key pointers, if you ask the same, what is involved over here? Your vulnerability assessment as well as your penetration testing. Vulnerability assessment and on your penetration testing. Ravindra, nice. Yes. So VA, when we talk about vulnerability assessment, it's identifying the vulnerabilities which are present in your network, for example. Okay. So what all vulnerabilities are present over there? We call it like a CVE and CVSS, common vulnerability and exposures, and common vulnerability scoring systems are attached to it. So we look out for what are the flaws, what are the weaknesses in your network, in your system. That is done with your vulnerability assessment. So we use different tools. Like you guys might have heard about Nessus, Rapid7, right? Something like this. Nikto. Nmap is also one of the scanning tools, absolutely. Or vulnerability assessment tool also. So basically here we are trying to identify the weaknesses or the flaws. With penetration testing, we have your ethical hackers, or white hat hackers are also there, uh, known as the ethical hacker. So penetration testing is there, where we will be exploiting those vulnerabilities and creating a report, attaching a POC as in proof of concept, and letting the organization know that how much damage they would have suffered if this vulnerability was exploited. They help us to create the report as well as help us to mitigate that particular vulnerability. So penetration testing, you can say hackers are over here involved in this scenario. Okay, and we'll see like how attackers could have taken advantage of this kind of vulnerability and how much loss we would have suffered in case if that vulnerability was exploited. Now in penetration testing, just to add on a couple of more things. In this we have, okay, I'm writing three types of testing: black box, gray box, and white box testing methods. When we say black box, it means here we are not sharing any information to the ethical hacker. So let's suppose if uh, Ravindra is there. Ravindra is a penetration tester. So I hired Ravindra and I told him that you need to do the penetration testing of this application. For example, black box would be I'm not sharing any other information with Ravindra. I'm just telling Ravindra that okay, this is a web application. You have to do the testing, and no sort of information is shared with him. So he have to find his own way in order to perform the testing. Gray boxes, I'm sharing some information. So I'm telling Ravindra that okay, here are some users' credentials, and I'm telling him that okay, the application is created in PHP language, and we are using Apache server, for example. So he have some idea now, and he can do a bit in-depth penetration testing. In Whitebox, I'm sharing entire thing. So it's like I'm sharing the entire source code of my web application to Ravindra. So he can do the in detailed inspection, or you can say the penetration testing of my application. That's the difference. Okay, between these three. In compliance and validation, simply you can say your policies, audits, having baselines are involved in this. So various governance risk, GRC, and compliance program are there, which help the organization to continue its business without any risk, right? So if you talk about any example in terms of governance risk and compliance program, will be like ISO 27001, the readiness assessment, security baseline policy, right? Documenting those things for your ISMS, information security management system, right? PCI DSS, GDPR, everything is part of a compliance and validation over here. Okay. Then the last one is security operation. So these operations are performed by basically your SOC. This is the reason I'm telling you about the security management. So this is what your SOC does. These operations are performed by the SOC, Security Operations Center, through real-time security alerting, threat analysis, and threat intelligence. They correlate the events with each other. Okay, they help us to report to the team to take further actions. They are helpful in terms of detecting any malicious activities, monitoring X prevent, correct. And SOC also help us to respond. The incident handling and digital forensic team is there in order to do so, right? So that is a security operation which is done by a SOC. Okay, so in simpler words, Your SIM solutions are there, like your Splunk, IBM Curator, which help us to create the alerts or correlate the events with each other in order to raise the alert. So security information and event management it is. Security information and event management is your SIM solution, which is used over there. Along with that, in your SOC, we do have incident detection, response, and reporting. This more in detail we'll talk about in the further domains where we'll be talking about incident and data forensics, and we'll also talk about the SIM solutions as well. Clear? Okay. Now, next is regarding key components of security management. The same thing which we have discussed, just outlining those things quickly. So it also includes basically your, you can say, you know, risk assessment. So risk assessment is the process of identifying, analyzing, and evaluating potential risk and vulnerabilities that could impact the organization assets, operations, or objectives. Policy development will be involving creating a set of guidelines, rules, and procedures that will outline the organization's approach to security and the expectations for employees and stakeholders. For example, do you guys have a password policy in your organization? Password policy? Your password policy might say that you have to use, very complicated password, at least of 12 digits, something like this, and you have to change your password after every 30 or 50 days, right? And you cannot keep your last 10 password as your current password, something like this. So that was what policy helping us to secure in order to prevent ourselves, uh, you know, prevent ourselves from any brute force attack or dictionary based attack or any password based attack. Yeah, we have management. Like for example, if I talk about CISO, just give an example, Chief Information Security Officer, and CIO is also along with that, depending on the organization to organization. So they will be defining the policies for you. What all policies need to be there in terms of security, because CISO is the one who is responsible for the information security of the organization. All right. Moving on, incident response, as I just discussed about it, incident response is the process of identifying, managing, and mitigating security incidents to minimize damage and reduce recovery time and cost. We're going to discuss this more in detail, but just to give an idea, whenever any incident occurs in the organization, okay, anything happens, malicious activities has happened, we raise the ticket and pass it to the incident response team, and now they will be, identifying, making sure that okay, it's a valid incident. They'll be prioritizing the incidents and mitigate those incidents on the basis of the prioritization, okay, to minimize or cut down the damage, and helps to recover from those incidents as quickly as possible so that we can, you know we can be back to our business process or normal business processes. Okay. Now when we talk about SOC, more details in SOC, Ravindra, incident response team is depending on the organization to organization, to be very honest, some call it as an L3, some they have a different designation or separate department for that. All right, continue with this. SOC, when you talk about SOC, Security Operations Center, okay, it's a very popular term, right? So Security Operations Center is a centralized unit within an organization. It's a business unit within an organization that is responsible for monitoring and managing security related issues. The SOC serves as a nerve center where security experts, technologies, and process converge to monitor, detect, respond to, and mitigate the potential security incidents in real time. So as I mentioned, SOC is a centralized unit basically that continuously monitors and analyzes ongoing activities on your organization's systems. Okay, like whatever the activities are going in your networks, in your systems, in your servers, endpoints, databases, these things are, being monitored using your SOC or via SOC. So that's why it is known as a centralized unit. So it provides you, basically you can see in this image also, they provide you a single point of view through which your organization assets are managed, they are monitored, they are assessed, and they're defended from the threats. So SOC basically help us to basically evaluate the security posture of, organization from any anomalies in their assets or in their information systems. So in SOC, just to let you know guys, from your different data sources, be it your firewall, database, endpoints, file server, emails, router, IDS, IPS, whatsoever it is, the logs are fetched from there and being displayed in one centralized unit. So logs are collected from different data sources. They are normalized. I'm writing it for you. Um, yeah, normalize SEC. When we collect the logs, they're in a raw form. You can see not in a readable format. So when you normalize it, you put into a very a readable format. Okay, a human readable format. That's a normalization. Removing the duplicacy and all those things. Perfect. Then it go for the indexing. Indexing simply means when you open a book, for example, when you open a book, do you see there is an index page? Index page in a book. There's an index page, right? Index page help you to identify which topic is on which page number. Correct? So similarly, indexing is done in your SOC also, so that we can fetch out the data. We can target the data specifically which I want to target. Okay, that's indexing. Database, they are stored in the database after that. Okay, from where they are stored. And correlation as in relating different events with each other in order to make a sense out of it. For example, when we talk about correlation, if I say error dot log on failure greater than 5 and error dot user and duration less than 1 minute. So different events are being related with each other. So what I'm trying to tell, it's a correlation. We are setting that rule, correlating if different events. So we are saying if there is more than 5 login failure attempts, and that is for the same user account, and that too is happening within 1 minute of a time frame, give me an alert because it looks like someone is trying to crack your password. So what we are doing, we are correlating different events with each other. So on that note, purpose of SOC, if we talk about real-time monitoring, as I mentioned, uh, Ravinder. Okay, let's cover this in last. If you have any queries, I will help you out because that will take time. Okay. Purpose of SOC, real-time monitoring. Okay. Uh, as I mentioned before, so to continuously monitor network traffic, system logs, and security alerts in real time. Incident detection and response, to quickly detect and respond to security incident. We have a IRT, incident response team, for that. Threat intelligence interrogation, oh sorry, integration, to stay informed about emerging cyber threats and vulnerabilities. So threat intelligence is like, being aware about the fact that what all new kind of a cyber threats are out there in the market or in the world, and what kind of industry they are targeting. So maybe with this information, you'll get to know your industry can also be get targeted with the same cyber attack. So according to which you prevent yourself those by gathering those intel. Every country also have their own intelligence team, right? And they get to know, okay, where another attack will be happening, so something like that. We also have an intelligence team or intelligence department where they will be getting such kind of information and protecting their organization in respect to that. Vulnerability management, as discussed before, to identify and address vulnerabilities in systems and applications. Continuous improvement, yeah, continuous practice, ongoing practices. So to evaluate and improve security process and procedures, where we, if we are having any flaws, any things which need to be improvised, we improvise it. Compliance and reporting. Narayan, again, this question also in the end, I will discuss that because it will take some time to explain it or to give an idea. Compliance and reporting, to meet regulatory and compliance requirement, which we just discussed. Risk management, again, to assess and manage risk to the organization information assets, right? What all risk and how much risk will be facing. Next is need of SOC. So continuous monitoring and prevention, compliance management, reduction of cybersecurity cost, centralized visibility, organization-wide collaboration, effective incident response. These are important factors in terms of need of SOC. Like basically, if I have to give you more idea about it, you know your SOC, basically why it is required, why it is needed. because it helps us to research and identify what all potential cyber threats are there, right? It will be managing and handle numerous devices which are not managed properly or which are unsupported. Okay. uh, it will be helping us to track and manage, or you can say secure, a large amount of an organization data and the information around the clock, right? They'll monitor and manage isolated and localized, devices. They'll be helping us to monitor, mitigate, and manage any privileged user abuse. They'll be SOC will be helping us to respond faster to the cyber threats. It will be helping us to become proactive rather than being reactive, right? It will be helping us to reduce the security vulnerabilities because we'll performing vulnerability assessment also. It will be helping us to minimize the business loss, right? It will be helping like to have full control over your staff resources, correct? So basically to have full control over the organization's log data for analysis, and for compliance reasons, SOC is needed in these different ways. So it's very a proactive measure, I would say, which will be helping us to identify any suspicious activities which are being done in our network or in our systems. So it will be like, we'll be performing vulnerability management to identify which activities are vulnerable to the network, right? Uh, we'll be performing log management, saving all the logs, which will be useful in forensics, digital forensics, at the time whenever security breach happens. It will be helping us to evaluate the policies, procedures which are required for business operations, right? It will be helping us to identify, like, we can check whether the organization has appropriate internal controls and the processes provide proper services to all the clients or not, these kind of a thing. So basically, strengthening the environment of the organization and eradicating any incident which has occurred within the organization. Now, the last thing, interesting factor, which is SOC roles, or you can say, sorry, job roles in SOC. Okay, general perception. That's why I just bring this topic. SOC 1, SOC 2. Like generally, we do have this idea only that we have, L1 analyst and L2 analyst. That's it. Correct. L3 SOC manager. Nice, 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 nice. If I have to like generalized structure, these profiles are there for sure. For sure, these profiles are there. But uh, like we have L1 analyst, L2 incident handler, SMEs, the subject matter experts. Your threat hunter can be part of it. Your digital forensics team can be part of it, right? Compliance auditor separately. And these things are, you can say, managed by a SOC manager. Audit, like these will be audit and everything will be third party ones. And now your SOC manager is also reporting to your CISO. If your organization is having a CISO, only then, okay? Just in that case. Cool. See, we have L1 analyst, okay? Uh, okay. We can run the questions and just explain this people was I was just waiting if people are giving their input or not. All right then. As I mentioned, this is a generalized uh, form in terms of your SOC reporting structure, or you can say people, those who are involved in the SOC portion. Okay. So people, when we talk about people, job roles in SOC, we define it as common term, which is people. People are nothing, but they are just some, we can say, specialized individuals. Those are working at different levels of your SOC. Okay. So we expect that uh, these people should have a deep technical knowledge, a wide range of capabilities, and a variety of experiences. So they should be able to monitor and analyze a large amount of data or information that can be used for further investigation. So they these people, they should basically have the necessary training and certifications which are required to fulfill their roles and responsibilities, we can say. Okay, these people are considered in that way. Okay, all that is mentioned SOC analyst, but we can cut it down to or break it down to L1 and L2 also. these two. So SOC analysts in general, they are there for monitoring and triaging thou monitoring and triaging thousands of alerts and events from various sources. So they perform initial analysis on alerts which has been generated and events which are there to validate and prioritize the most important one out of them. So they, they look out for the alerts for which the escalation of the incident response team is needed for further in-depth analysis. So they will look out for this L1 and L2. If further investigation, escalation is required for that particular alert, they will raise a ticket and pass it to incident handler, as I mentioned before also. So SOC L1 analyst, they're responsible for monitoring the security alerts from SIEM solutions, and they either close or pass the event details which has been the event which has generated those details to tier 2 for final analysis as required. So L1 over here, they just monitor the security alerts from SIM solutions, and then they will either close it or pass it those details to their tier 2, which is L2, okay, for final analysis which is required. After that, once it is escalated to L2 analyst, okay, so they will investigate the scope and impact. So this L1 user will, you can say, create use cases, for example, okay, and triage the alerts kind of a way, setting up the priorities. L2 after that, investigate scope and impact of it. So in other words, basically your L2 analysts, they will investigating, validating and prioritizing the security alerts. They collect and document the data which are related to suspicious activities and then forward it to the next level for investigation, which is done by your incident handlers or incident responder. So that L2 declares that, okay, this is an incident. L1 escalate it to L2. L2 declares it that it is an incident and pass it to the incident responding team. So this incident response team will be remediating and closing that incident. They try to mitigate it in short. Clear? So incident response, it goes through certain phases or certain steps are there. We call it preparation, detection, analysis, containment, eradication, recovery, and your post-incident activity. Okay. So the incident responder, they're responsible for in-depth incident analysis by like you know collecting and correlating all the data from different sources. So they identify if any critical system or data is getting affected, and if it is getting affected, they'll be looking out for the remediations of it. So they analyze the networks and system for threats, they look out for the security risk and vulnerabilities, and then suggest the appropriate, or you can say responses to those uh, risk. So they will be performing, you can say, conducting malware analysis, reverse engineering, preparing risk assessment reports for management, administrators, and users, communicating with other threat analysis, for defining correct security plans and everything. So this is what your incident responder will be doing over there. Clear? Then we have, you can say, hunter. Hunters are also there. Um, so basically, threat hunter, they look out for the hunter is written over there, right? Threat hunting and threat intelligence difference, okay? There's a difference between these two. Do not get confused. To check the traces of the threat, perfect. So generally we call it threat hunting is kind of a proactive cybersecurity approach, okay? Proactive ones. Here we are actively searching for signs of any malicious activities or any threat within the organization network or organization systems. Okay. So here you can see your human analysts, they will be actively, seeking out for any, we call it anomalies, these threats or potential threats uh, that might not have been detected during our, scannings or automated detections techniques. So basically here we try to identify and mitigate the security incidents before they can cause any damage to us. So we look out for the proactively approach, right? Then SOC manager, pretty much obvious. So, they oversee the SOC day-to-day operations. They develop and implement SOC policies and procedures. They coordinate with the other departments and stakeholders. They make sure the SOC has it's effective and it's efficient, right? So leadership management skill will be required. Strategic plannings are discussed. Governance. Make sure the governance are being security governance is there. So these kind of job roles and responsibilities are there for the SOC manager. Threat intelligence, although not mentioned, but I'm just including threat intelligence as well because that is also what we are going to discuss later. Threat intelligence, this one. So these people, they collect and analyze threat intelligence data, as I mentioned. They identify if there is any emerging cyber threats out there in the world. They help us to provide some, intelligence to enhance our security measures. They, uh, basically help us to, they extend our security posture, in short. Security engineer, which is mentioned over here, security engineer is just like, they have responsibilities like designing, implementing, and managing security infra. They also conduct assessments. They collaborate with other IT teams to integrate security measures. They stay updated on security technologies and what all trends are out there. So these are like different job roles and responsibilities in terms of your SOC. Forensic is also the very interesting one. Forensic is like to find out the root cause analysis. So have you seen any detective movie or any movie where we have whenever there is a crime scene, a forensic team goes to that particular crime scene and investigate. Okay, yeah, Oscar winning show CID. But anyway, in any movies and any series you might have seen that, right? So those team will be doing what? They'll be wearing a kit, clicking the entire images, pictures, making a video, collecting the evidences. Same thing also happens in digital forensics also. We go to that particular crime scene, we take some pictures, make some videos over there, and collect the evidences. Evidences would be like laptop, mobile phones, hard disk, anything like that. Absolutely, Vaibhav. These things are gathered for the legal purpose because these things will be submitted in front of court. Like they will be displayed, like it is admissible to court in order to identify who did this, and then we can, take him to the court and like go for the further process. So forensic investigators are there. So they try to identify the root cause analysis and they also try to find the perpetrator, as in the one who did this entire crime.